And we are live. We had a little technical difficulty there with my video, but anyway, good to have you everybody here. This is the Event Success Insights podcast with me, Chryssa Skodra, the world's first ever event success manager. In the Event Success Insights podcast, we are discussing the latest trends with influential thought leaders, professionals, and academics in the event industry, as well as in technology and business. This podcast is powered by Lyyti, the leading event success platform that enables you to create meaningful encounters and measure them as well with the Experience Value Score, the EVS, which is a North Star metric measuring event success. For more information, find out more at lyyti.com and eventsuccessmanagement.com. Today with me in the studio, in the home studio, because today we have a different setup. I have the pleasure to welcome Lasse Rouhiainen all the way from Spain. Hello, Lasse.
Hi, Chris, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for attending. It's a pleasure to have you here on the Event Success Insights podcast. We've known for a decade, I would say.
Yeah.
So I had the pleasure of having Lasse as a colleague of mine at Haaga-Heili University of Applied Sciences. He was teaching at Pasila at the headquarters, a social media course. I was teaching a similar course in our Porvoo campus. I've attended your courses, very well done courses, very well accepted. The students loved them. And Lasse, you are now joining this podcast all the way from Spain. You are a Finn who has been living there in Spain for how many years now?
20 years altogether.
20 years, 2 decades already. Today's podcast is all about the metaverse. The title of today's episode 12 is Opportunities and Threats that the Metaverse Generates for Brands and Events. And what a great topic to discuss. It's a very hyped topic on the agenda, very high the past couple of years. And Lasse, you are the author of one of the best books on artificial intelligence. You're focusing a lot on disruptive technologies and digital media. So we will open this topic with you today. But before we go and deep dive into the topic, tell us a little bit about the highlights of your career and what brought you to where you are today and the interesting things that you're involved with.
Right, and thanks again for inviting me. So for many, many years, I have been teaching social media and digital marketing for companies, because earlier that was the main way of providing new value for companies. And then I became really interested on AI as the leaders of Google and Facebook said that, hey, we are doing this AI and that's the number one thing and goal. And back then, it was like 6 years ago or 7 years ago, nobody had really written books about it on Amazon for non-technical people. So I became really interested and learning, and I actually wrote one of the books, which probably was one of the first ones for non-technical people.
This is the book we're talking about, right?
Yes, correct.
Best-selling book on Amazon, one of the best-selling books on the topic of artificial intelligence. So tell us a little bit about this. So you started researching and you had the idea to make artificial intelligence more well-known for the everyday people, right?
Yeah, correct. I would say AI is the most important technology of our times because it will impact everything, not only business, but also society, and in a way that we are not, how would I say, ready, and we are not prepared many times. So it's totally different than any other technology. And in addition, it's a technology that most people learn first from Hollywood movies or TV series like Black Mirror. And that's why they have a totally different view on what it is and so on.
And Lasse, as you said, you started first teaching social media, and then you realized that artificial intelligence is very interesting for the big social media platforms. So, in your lifetime and our lifetimes, we're a similar age. What is the evolution of the web that you have witnessed and experienced? So, if you can give us a little bit an overview of how things were in the early days of the internet. So if we think about Web 1.0 to where we are or where we have been and we were currently living with the Web 2.0 being sort of reaching, I think, its climax with social media and content creation. And then we go to Web 3. So give us a little bit the timeline of how the days used to look like when we were young, and then we became adults and continued our careers, and then where we are heading. If you can tell us a little bit in a nutshell.
Sure, thank you. So, for example, when I was in high school, 2000 and sorry, 97, 98, 97. So, internet was then just websites that only big companies or celebrities had. So we went online, and our job was to go to websites like rollingstones.com and
Mhm.
look at the website, what's happening. And it was funny because it took time to get there. And when you were there was not much to do and so on. And then Google came and we could also search. But the main thing was to read everything that's happening online. And after that, I remember when I came to Spain, I was helping one company with the online activities, and I saw that somebody had a video online, and I was thinking that's amazing because when you have a video, it becomes more human and it's much more enriching and interesting. So then I became really interested of this, and when YouTube started to happen and MySpace and Facebook, then I got really interested on this Web 2.0, where we were not only able to read, but we were able to upload things, and we were also able to write. So
Mm,
this kind of like democratized the way internet was used, and it was really good in a way. But the bad thing was that it generated a lot of data, and all that data went to big providers like Facebook and Google. And
mhm,
at the same time, right now, people are spending hours and hours and hours using platforms like Instagram, and they don't earn any money or any benefit from it. They are just doing it because they want to have more likes than their friends and so on. So there's a lot of things that are kind of like broken and not working well. So that's why we have this Web 3, where we can not only read like Web 1 or write or upload things like Web 2, but we can also own things, and we can be kind of like a partly owner of certain protocols, as they are called. And also the other thing of Web 3, which for me is really interested and why I'm excited, is that this data would now be decentralized, because we would not need big companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google, who would be basically they are like intermediaries, and we would have more decentralized web. And I think that would help a lot of societies, a lot of people, and again would give a huge benefits for everybody who understands how to use it, and in general it will be better version.
great. So you before we go into Web 3 and Metaverse, which is today's topic, and open those virtual reality, universal worlds, decentralized worlds, I would like you to give some advice already, because we're still living on the Web 2 verge towards Web 3. So, what advice do you have regarding Web 2 and social media and its usage for event professionals and event creators? What are the opportunities and threats, and some advice, because you're also the social media expert? So if we get your insights regarding Web 2.0 and social media for event professionals, entertainment business in general, and then we can move on to today's topic.
Well, maybe it's like trying to create as much value for event participants before, during, and after the event.
Mhm.
There's still a lot of big events that when I go to Twitter or LinkedIn, I'm kind of like trying to search who is going to this event. There's like random post or nothing is happening. So one thing that I know in Finland is used really well are kind of like networking systems where participants can like network and learn from others who are going. and that's extremely valuable because you don't have to like do random searches on social media. So what I would say is that I would like you actually said before we were talking that the most valuable thing is the participants' time. So I would
Mhm.
try to think how we can use social media and different tools and generate value like before, during, and after, so that the participants should not spend time like trying to use kind of like Twitter search and checking out who is going to this event and trying to network before. For example, that's one thing that would be really really useful, kind of like going to the next level with providing value to the participants.
And I think Lyyti is a great tool as well for the communication before and during and after the event, especially in the before and after, which is often neglected. And of course, afterwards, we have the experience value score that measures exactly, as you mentioned, how valuable the participants' time was. Was it worth it or was it wasted? So that's interesting. So when it comes to measuring event success, also I think you are a great person to talk about the data and the dangers of the collection of data and the opportunities. So would you have some advice for event organizers regarding the data that they collect on social media and how those can be best utilized and not abused?
Right. Well, I would say every data that it's already on social media, there's not that big problem. I would just search what is the best tool for that. I don't know. There are a lot of tools. I cannot name one. But everything kind of like that's data outside, which is already published, there's not that much problems. The problem with data collection and AI is many ways or many times that we use somehow users and clients' data before them or without them knowing it. And this is what, for example, Facebook has done, collecting all of our data and then selling it to third parties, for example. So all kinds of activities like that should be avoided. But everything that's published, I would just use the best tool out there and try to get sense of what's going on.
Great. And today's topics, Lasse, and everybody tuning in and listening at this moment, is opportunities and threats that the metaverse generates for brands and events. And the word metaverse and artificial intelligence has been so hyped lately. So, if you could please break it down to us, first of all, what is the metaverse, how it works, and how is it transforming our society and business? And then we will take a closer look at what the event industry, how event industry can benefit from it, or the entertainment industry in general. You have chapter in your books topic related to the topic of entertainment and events as well. So first of all, give us the explanations. What is the metaverse and how it works and how it can generate and transform society, business? What value can it add?
Right. I would start by giving this example that when in the year 98, I was looking at the website rollingstone.com,
Mhm.
me and others, we would never have imagined like social networks and many other value creation tools that are now online. So in the same way as we are talking now about metaverse, we have to accept that it's a thing that it's evolving and developing, and it's really difficult for us to say that in 2 years this will be big or that will be big. But what I would say is that everybody should be excited about it, even though there's a lot of hype and like high hopes and promises and such things. I would say most companies, all the big social media companies, Facebook, Google, Amazon, everybody says that metaverse is like their number one goal, and we will see in the next 6 months we will see a lot of all kinds of companies. I would say Finnish companies say that hey, now we have opened our metaverse version where you can do this and that. So the definition is that it's kind of like a virtual world where we would interact and see things and we could even buy things. People are already buying things. We can learn things, and this learning is the topic that I'm most interested.
Mhm.
We can also entertain, and we can also use social networks. So we can do kind of like all kinds of things that we are now doing online. But there's not the specific definition. So one way of using metaverse is to use like virtual reality headset, like Oculus, where we would be totally in a different world. We would not see anything from this real world. Another way would be to use augmented reality, like people who were playing Pokemon Go with their mobile phone. It was augmented the reality that they were now. And then you can already see, you can now visit different metaverses with your computer browser or internet browser. And that's also something I recommend to everybody. It's interesting since we are in the early innings of this. Many times it takes time. They are not loading, like you said.
Exactly. They're still loading because I tried to check some
Yeah.
of the
So it's the
verses.
same as the website of Rolling Stones for 20 years ago was loading for me. So it's the same kind of experience. However, I would say that it will give brands and everybody a way to give some kind of added value for the customers and the users, and that's why we need to learn from it. And all these big technology advancements nowadays, they come like little by little and then suddenly. So that means that we cannot like wait and say, oh, I will learn about metaverse like 5 years from now I will just shut
Mm.
down and think that it doesn't matter. No, it matters, and everybody should learn more about it right now.
So we should learn about it, definitely. But what are the threats also that the metaverse can hide? What are the perils? You have a nice infographic. Perhaps we can show that. I can provide the link below so that people can take a closer look to it afterwards. But you can walk us through a little bit regarding the risks related to the metaverse, and so that we can balance not only the business value on one hand, but what could go wrong, because I'm a little bit skeptical, I have to say. I'm a little bit concerned, and I want to ask you, what is the future following up to this for our kids? And congratulations, you gotten your son Mark. I realized when I was reading the preface of your book, Artificial Intelligence, you dedicated the book to your son.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm really interesting to hear what are your insights regarding the how the future is looking for our children and the younger generation. So what are the risks, Lasse?
Right. So again, comparing to Web 2.0, Web 2.0 kind of like started where Facebook and Google were doing everything. They were going like all in because it was really good for the stock value and for them generating money. So kind of like the point of view was doing, it was a reactive way of things.
Mhm.
They said, oh, let's do everything. If something goes wrong, we will take care of it. But everybody knows that they didn't take care of it. It was mostly about them making money and so on. And now when we start with Metaverse and Web3, we have to have a proactive way, which means that we have to think about these risks, but at the same time, we have to go not all in, but we have to go fast. We have to participate in this because there's a lot of good things. But at the same time, we have to know these risks. So what are the biggest risks? We can say that if you think about internet usage today, there are a lot of good things and there are a lot of bad things. And I would
Mhm.
say all of these will like augment. So the bad things and people who are doing something bad, they will have more opportunities. Why? Because now people are just looking at the screen, but they are in this real world. But in the future, when they are, let's say, many hours with virtual reality, there will be a bigger chance for manipulating them and maybe selling them certain things, maybe get them to vote for a certain political party or get them to join something they should not join, and so on and so forth. So therefore we have to know that there's like a bigger chance of manipulating people. And also I would say that, like you mentioned, like young people, so we could
Mm.
say that internet was developed by and for old people, and we never were thinking like how young people will, we are always like catching up and kind of like taking this reactive approach. When people, young children, are like many hours on the screen, then we start thinking, oh, maybe this is not the best option. So
Mhm.
therefore I want to give credit to Lego company, together with oh, I cannot remember, a big game developer. They are, can put it on the show notes, but they are creating metaverse for children that has been or is developed by certain experts who say how the metaverse and how the experience should be for children. One third of the internet users are young people and children, but we have until now we have kind of like forgot got them, and that's why many people have addiction to online and so on and so forth. So anyhow, that was some quick summary of the
Mm.
risks.
You touched upon also the addiction and the medical issues. So I would like us still to open up a little bit as you touched upon, the ethical, the medical, the psychological issues, because as we know with the internet use, we can use it or abuse it as well. And who is the authority that supervises what goes on the metaverse? And tell us a little bit about that interesting young man who you told me before backstage, who is going to the gym on the metaverse. So I'm just wondering, is this now the metaverse? Is it really a very interesting, exciting way to do things and to use the internet and get immersed into the technology? Or is it a dystopia and something that we have to really put rules and regulations and try to really be cautious about?
Right. Good question. I would say we should, let's say, we have to have like this proactive way of thinking about it and developing it.
Mm.
And the development should not happen only by certain people. Like if you think Web 2 mostly was developed by certain leaders in Facebook, Google, Amazon, and so on. And they
Mhm.
kind of like decide how rest of us will use it and so on. But now all of us should participate. And I would say that now, since the Web 2 has so many problems, there are a lot of intelligent people who are creating amazing apps and amazing things for the metaverse so that it will be safer and better version. I was referring to my friend who, rather than going to gym,
Mm.
is doing some kind of exercise on the metaverse, and I think that's a good option. The gasoline prices are going up in many places, and if the gym is far away, and maybe the gym prices are also going up, and if you can, put your goggles and do exercise in your home, maybe that's interesting. The main thing here is that you also develop skills in this real life, because some people will stay on the metaverse, they don't come back, so to speak. And I would also say to the parents that some parents think that the more you give like technology to the children, the better. However, that's totally opposite. You should first learn about the technology, you should learn about the opportunities and the threats, and then if children use technology like mobile phones or the metaverse, you should be with them and talk with them, and
Mm.
maybe they can like create their own apps and games to the metaverse. Like that's a great thing, because when they learn that, hey, this is the thing, here are the opportunities, here are the disadvantages, and I know them, but now I will program or use AI and create different applications for others to enjoy. That's the right way to use technology and metaverse.
Mm. I'm just still a little bit worried about the disassociation between our human selves with our bodies and all the senses, and then living life through a virtual reality headset and a screen. I'm a digital native, I love technology, but I'm just still mindful of, is this the future we're going to? And I wanted to ask you uh, regarding, for instance, the concerns, these concerns that many tech billionaires have been reading a lot on the press. They prefer art or Montessori schools for their children who focus on nature and science. And they're restricting, like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they have been restricting the use of technology at their homes, so they're making billions by technology. uh, do they know something more? Is it technology just for the masses? And what is then as you said, it's important to really teach our children and the young generation to how to use it properly, to walk them through. Do you see any concerns with this, as you mentioned with your friend? preferring to go to the gym on the metaverse. What does it mean from the human psychology and the human interactions?
Yeah, good question. And that's, I would say, the biggest challenge right now. So the problem with, let's say, AI, when AI came and now as metaverse come, is that they are happening all of the sudden, and we are kind of like catching up and trying to adapt to the situation. The right way would be that metaverse would start 5 years from now, and we would have 5 years time to prepare ourselves and to investigate enough time and money to different research and see, hey, how long is it like okay to be on a metaverse if you are with your virtual reality headset, and what are the good and bad things. Right now we don't know, and many people unfortunately will have addiction, as they now have like computer and internet addiction. On metaverse they will have even better, a bigger addiction. And also I would say one thing is this privacy and security is important. Also cyber attacks will become bigger, and we have to take them into consideration. But I would also say privacy is important, because the idea of Web3 is that we have more privacy, that the big social media giants don't like own our username and password. But then, so that would, for example, help the fact that if we go to some kind of metaverse of Facebook, which I don't recommend, maybe Facebook in the future wants to sell us some wearables that they are also seeing how our heart is pulsing and
Yeah, you
different things.
mentioned about the patent pending T-shirt with all the sensors. So I think we discussed about it. And perhaps we can mention it here live now on the Event Success Insights podcast. That they could measure our heart rate in real time when we're watching an ad, when we're attending an event on the metaverse, when we're consuming anything that they have to show us. And that's interesting and scary at the same time. On the one hand, you can say that, okay, great, event organizers on the metaverse can measure really the emotions and how captivating the event is, how excited it makes the heart pulses and beats of their participants. But then what they do with this data, could people be telling them, okay, now it seems that you have arrhythmia, here's a medication for you, go
Yes.
see a doctor. So it is opportunities and threats, exactly what we're discussing today. It's a double-edged sword.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that is
so
great.
that's an excellent example that you give for the event industry, which again, that can generate more value. There are two important things. One is that those people who want to join that kind of thing, they have to opt in.
Right.
With Facebook, there was never option to opt in, right? They just took our data and sold it and used it and abused it and so on. But now those people who want, they can like opt in that, hey, put this wearable and we can see how you are reacting to this material during the event, and that's amazing. Then when that analysis what is happening, that algorithm should be open sourced. Okay. And open sourced means that it would be released to the public, and third party validators would say that, hey, this algorithm is correct and this thing works correctly. It could not be like Facebook algorithms, which are secret and nobody knows how they work. So if it has, for example, these two things, it would be great. And then some kind of security that after the event my data would be deleted, that this algorithm will automatically delete it. So something like this would be amazing. And not only events,
You
but
should
then
be
this could
super
be.
plus on a committee. You and other people like you, and that's why I wanted to bring you on the show as well, because you're a person who knows a lot and is able to say both the good, the bad, and also the ugly. So you call it as it is, and I appreciate this honesty that comes from research and experience and deep knowledge, because often people don't know, and they just take for granted that, yeah, this is how it works. But when you know, I think the more you know, you start being more critical and able to take the right choices. So that's good to have and to give your insights here to our listeners. We touched upon now the event industry. Let's go now to the core of today's topic regarding events. What are because if we think about the past 2 years, right, we lived in pandemic time. This was for our generation never before seen, sort of a little bit the age pandemic, but not at this scale. And now the whole world with COVID-19 has been down to its knees. The event industry has been severely impacted, and people have been locked in their homes for a little bit more than 2 years. So I was thinking, and many people think that now people will be starving for events, for real in-person human touch kind of experiences. So now we have the metaverse on at the end of the pandemic being the new best thing and the next biggest thing. So what the metaverse means in terms of events, what would you have to say? Because is your opinion also that people will still strive for real life experience, feeling and hugging and seeing the people? And what is the balance there? Because I think the event industry is really making their living with those real life events, as the metaverse is still in its very baby early steps.
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, I would think I like how we can generate value. It's all about value, and it's all about thinking, and also I would say asking your participants, hey, if we have like metaverse event, what would you like it to be? This is like really interesting to listen to them.
Mhm.
But let's give an example. So for example, I think 6 months ago or something like this, the mayor of Seoul, the capital of South Korea, started to give talks on the metaverse. Okay, it's really cool. And if you think about like the mayor of Helsinki giving talks, and if you go to the center of Helsinki to listen to him, that's like only thing you do. You listen to him, maybe you can ask questions, I don't know, but then you go home. And if you listen to his talk on YouTube, that's the only thing you can do. You can only listen and maybe send questions. But if you go to metaverse, you can create all kinds of things around it. Maybe next to it, you can have information about the city or how they are fighting the climate change, or in the right hand side you can have maybe networking with some kind of people, and you can have like different options. So I would say think about it in the point of view of how we can uh, teach something to people, and how we can give them options that they can listen to talk, but also there's other valuable things for them. Like I send you the metaverse of Procter and Gamble, for example. I like the fact that you go there and you are kind of like go to this botanic garden and you learn about the ingredients of their products, for example aloe vera, and you can learn, but it's learning which is more interesting than just reading an article, which maybe me and you have already read like thousands of articles. We are bored, right? But now we have a more visual experience, and you can, by the way, everybody can search it, or we can put maybe the link, and you can use it with your computer browser. But it's nice because you are kind of like playing a game, and you try to find where's the aloe vera, and when you click it, it gives information of how valuable aloe vera could be for your skin, for example. And then you find another ingredient, another thing. So they have created it in a way where it's interesting learning, and it gives value for the user. So I would say I think this thing of learning is the most fascinating thing, and the thing that we have so many options. Like I said, if somebody gives a talk on metaverse, around it you can build all kinds of options. You can have people that stay there like 2 hours after the talk by just discovering things related to whatever is being taught.
Mm. Yes, I absolutely see those opportunities. I'm still, I don't want to play the devil's advocate today.
You
Perhaps
can.
I'm doing. Thank you, Lasse. It's just, I think I represent maybe some part of the people who are still a bit cautious and wondering, because in my personal opinion, and also after talking with a lot of people and event goers, participants, event professionals, they also raised some red flags. And as they were talking just about now about the pandemic, we are all so fatigued looking at a screen. We have neck problems for just being in this position, and our spines and cervical spines are so jammed and painful. And I'm just thinking that should we, to be honest with you, I've been thinking yesterday, should I go completely analog? I think maybe we're reaching too much of immersive technologies, disruptive technologies, innovation, and maybe we're losing our human senses. Soon we will be asked to sit on a chair and having virtual sets in our heads and not go anywhere. Food will come to this is really dystopian. I mean, I do love a lot of books or talking about dystopias or utopias. So I'm just wondering, where is this going? Is it a utopia or is it a dystopia? I think the future will tell. But anyway, I think it's important that you mentioned about the learning and the educational value. And I know that you're involved in a couple of startups in the intersection of metaverse and education and entertainment. And I think those are valuable. So would you like to elaborate a little bit more what exactly those are, what they do, and why you decided to be involved in those startup companies?
Right. And what you said there is exactly the right thing. That's why I said we would need like 5 years to
Mm,
learn how we can be more human. So the more technology our society has, the people who are more human will have better opportunities, will generate more value and so on. So I would say, for example, people who are in the high school or university, like still presenting and talking to others and learning like emotional intelligence is extremely valuable even if you are in social media. And then I would say also getting to know yourself is even more valuable. That's like a business skill nowadays. So all the things you mentioned, I agree. And I also I'm really afraid of the thing in the US. There's this term called sofalarity, where you would
mm,
just be in your sofa and
mm,
Coca-Cola would come with to
mm.
you and you would be in a headset and so on.
Yeah.
So that's bad thing. We should all be more healthy. But yeah, for example, one company which is like metaverse startup company is called Action Park. We can put the link later.
Mm,
And for example, their point of view is how everybody could create a course for the metaverse. And if you think about it, that's also quite nice. So they want to be like a Coursera of the metaverse.
mhm,
And we can put the link later. You can learn more from their website.
mhm,
But that's like a really nice thing, right? That it gives better opportunity. And maybe I mentioned to you that in Spain, there's one university called UCAM in Murcia, and what they have, they already are doing some of their classes on the metaverse because everything related to medicine or healthcare, you can do simulations much better on the metaverse, and students can learn quicker. And it's amazing. It's like extremely good for learning when we do it the right way, and so on. So I would say, yeah, there's so many opportunities here.
And this is the other one. Now the link is below. Is this the virtual film school,
Yeah,
right? So this
exactly.
is
Yeah.
one link, and the other one, check out more and
Yeah.
axonpark.com for more information. And Lasse, you have some kind of a more like an advisor
Yeah.
role.
Well, I just collaborate with one edtech accelerator, and they are part of that. Yeah.
Right. So check out more of those links below, axonpark.com and virtualfilmschool.org for more information. We're still here at the Event Success Insights podcast. Lasse Rouhiainen with a great website. Check out lasserouhiainen.com. Best-selling author, expert on artificial intelligence, disruptive technologies, and I think a very ethical and logical guy. I think you bring the Finnish logic to this world that we're living in, and I think that that's a great balance. And I love that you're researching and you're writing about topics, you're teaching, so you're very passionate about education, and I think that's important as well. How to educate the young people to know both the good and the bad, both the opportunities and the threats of the social media, of the metaverse, of Web 2, Web 3, whatever the future is telling us. So Lasse, last time on the show, I had also the pleasure to welcome André Noël Chaquer, and he has part of the show, of the concept of the show is that each guest is asking a question to the next guest. So
Oh, wow.
you'll be asking a question to my next guest. So
Okay.
but before we go into my next guest, I would like to ask you Andre's question. So he asked how to measure performance on the metaverse. I think we touched about it. So how to measure performance. So if we think about brands, you can give different examples you have in mind, and then I think events we touched upon. But um, any insight or new insights? How to measure success? How to measure performance on the metaverse?
Right. So the first, I would like to say that thanks for that episode. I'm always almost check it until the end. I was just watching it yesterday, and also thanks for Andre for sharing all that. I also collaborate with the company. So
Mhm.
how to measure is that we need data. So without data, we cannot measure. Uh, Again, the first thing I would say that when we get data, there's always be like opt-in option where people said, okay, I will participate in this algorithm analyzing me this and that. And I'm sure that there's already a lot of entrepreneurs building different things for this, for the metaverse. But it will be the same way, um, getting enough data from the users, and yeah, and if we are doing it in an ethical way, and if we are doing it in an open source way, then that's really good. And maybe I would add one thing. As you mentioned, the ethical things are interesting for me because then we can create better internet. There's a
Mhm.
European initiative
Mhm.
which is called, I will type it and we can later put it in as a link, but it's called GAIAX.
Mhm.
Really strange name, but the idea with GAIAX is that it's a European digital economy. And it's basically, the idea is that in the future, everybody who does business with digital economy or the metaverse, they have to be GAIA-X certificated
Mhm.
or applying these rules, and it's promoted by also with European Union and so on. But
Mhm.
it's excellent concept because the idea is this Web 3. So
Right.
rather than having all of our data on Google or Facebook, it would be decentralized, and also we can put the links for GAIA-X on the website on the show notes. But the idea for me, it's following these Web3 principles, which
Mm.
is everything, or most of the things should be open sourced. Many of the algorithms should be open sourced, and it would be decentralized, and it would have amazing benefits for everybody. So in Finland, you can learn more about GAIA-X from Sitra, and there's already, I think, 400 companies joining it. Microsoft has GAIA-X responsible person who is taking everything into account and so on. So I would say if you're building something for the metaverse, I would follow these GAIA-X principles if you want to do business in the European Union in the future. And also I would say that maybe in 2 years or 3 years, this GAIA-X, right now it takes time, it's like really slow, but as it gets going, it will be like a snowball effect, and I think it will be like competitive advantage for Europe in 2 to 3 years, because US needs to. There's so many angry citizens and politicians in US. They need to follow some kind of similar situation.
Mm-hmm. Great. And for more information, check out the links below. And of course, more information on today's speaker, lasserouhiainen.com. I still want to plug in your website here. Excellent website with a lot of resources. And if you're interested to know more about artificial intelligence, of course, the Artificial Intelligence book, one of the best selling books on Amazon. It's been translated in 7 different languages: Spanish, Russian, Turkish, Vietnamese, Chinese, English, Korean. What am I forgetting? And obviously the original in English. So check out those. And last next week, I might be having on the show maybe a traditional event producer, Lady Jonina Korender from Event Oy here in Finland, and a, a producer on the Metaverse. So for those two ladies, event producers, one in real life and one on the virtual reality world, organizing events on Decentraland and all those interesting metaverse places. So what would be your question? What would you be interested to know regarding uh, both traditional event organizing and then event organizing on the meta from the event practitioner's point of view?
Well, probably how do you get more people to the event? Just comes to my mind because even it's true that now after pandemic many
Mm,
people are excited of the events, but at the same time there's like a feeling that there's so many things going on both online and offline. At
right.
least in Spain many people have had difficulties later getting people to come to the event. So maybe that would be like, how do you, just the basic question is after pandemic, like how do you really get enough people to come to the event, and maybe during the event not to be on their WhatsApp or Instagram, but to pay attention.
Excellent question. I think that here encapsulates the main issues and concerns about event producers, both in real life and on a virtual reality, and that's part of life as well. Because the biggest challenge is really to get people. No shows is a big issue for event organizers, and indeed the after the pandemic and being locked at home, it could go both ways. Some people might be feeling really comfortable being in the comfort of their homes and consuming culture, and here before I wanted to mention also that for some people maybe with difficulties, moving difficulties, so maybe it is a way to be more inclusive of our events to people really who could be bedbound for different reasons, and maybe giving them an opportunity also to experience events and get connected with brands and listen to a mayor's talk somewhere, and really get as near as an experience as possible. So inclusion could be perhaps a benefit for a group of people around the world. And on the other hand, for people who, on the other hand, are sick and tired and fed up of looking at a screen, maybe how do we get people to the real in in-person events? And as you know, Elon Musk just I don't know if it's true or not. Believe it's true that is sent a letter, an email rather to his employees saying that you're expected to come to the office. Remote work for some companies might not be the case anymore. It's the same thing with events that when you have people there, maybe they drink, they consume, they eat. Of course, you can order food and have it there on your sofa, but this is interesting to hear sort of the different perspectives. How about you now, Lasse, on a personal level? You're there in Spain. Is it a sunny weather now, proper summer, or do you have some rains?
We had a lot of in the springtime, a lot of rains, more rains than in the last 30 years. But yeah, now it's sunny. Probably will be too hot summer, but everything is okay.
How does it look from the event organizer, from the events industry point of view? Are you personally going out to do you attend events? Do you give keynote? Do you speak at events? What is your professional life now in Spain or around the world? You're
Yeah.
traveling. Are you invited to speak to conferences? Are you invited to hold courses, or is it still things done online? What is your take
Yeah,
on?
a lot of things are done online. I was just about to go to 2 weeks ago to Austria, but it was so difficult with the uh, airline connections that we did it not on the metaverse. We just did it online, which was also really good. And now in 2 weeks, I will have to. One is like a workshop on the metaverse, and one is like a keynote speech. And for example, that other one, I hope they are following your recommendations and so on how to get people, because I'm kind of like wondering if they will get enough people for the event, which is happening like 3 weeks from now, and they are starting to promote now, but probably it will be okay.
Where is
But
that
yeah,
event? Where is that event at?
here in Alicante, it's organized by Chamber of Commerce of Alicante, and probably they do. But yeah, those are kind of like events here, and then the summer will be more. Not many things happen, and then again in September there will be more events here.
Great. So thank you once more, Lasse Rouhiainen, all the way from Alicante, Spain. Here, greetings from sunny Finland. Thank you, Lasse, for taking the time. I hope it was worth it. And of course, I hope it was worth it for the listeners out there and you learn interesting insights and picking Lasse's brains of what the metaverse is, what business value it can give to brands and event organizers. And yeah, check out more lasserouhiainen.com, and of course all the initiatives you've seen. The video recording will be available on YouTube, on Lyyti's Event Success Platform YouTube channel, and of course on the LinkedIn Live event and on the Facebook event as well, so you can watch the replay. Thank you, Lasse.
Thank you so much, Chris, and it was really nice to be here, and thanks for also asking these interesting questions, and hopefully everybody learned a little bit more about the metaverse.
And what is, Lasse, last question, what is the future looking for you? Are you looking always for the new trend to start researching and writing about? Or are we
Well,
still
not well. Yes, and no. I would say that the biggest opportunity right now is this Web3, where metaverse is one element of Web3. So I hope we will transition to this Web3, and the companies will start following its principles, because it will make the internet more, you know, better for everybody, not only few actors and so on. So I think that that will be enough big challenge for the next 5 years at least.
Great. Thank you, Lasse. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. I'll see you and talk to you next Wednesday at 12. Bye for now. Thank you, Lasse.
Thank you.
Bye.